What's up, YouTube? So recently I was watching John Greenwald on the Black Vault go through his recently 2 hours ago. I guess he released this video on all his FOIA requests into UFO materials and
or not document.
boom, you got some documents.
This is yet another based
CIA
technology.
and
I
UFO
actually
materials, and then in this whole discussion over what the material actually means, there was some weird briefcase brought to some office of some doctor, and this is some important thing I want to just go over real quick in response to John Greenwald's video. Some of the best research that I found is through just the scientific literature and nailing down all the doctors and the scientists who worked on these classified programs through just a research of the scientific literature and going back on that. So from this to be a 1976 document, and it to mention this doctor and then that name is redacted, we've actually gone through and we should do this by time period and everything, because I started the work on this about maybe a year or two ago on creating a database of all the scientists who ever worked on certain black projects, and then sorting them by different filters, or labels that we can put them all into a database. So that way when we get documents like this declassified and there's redacted names on typeset font, where we can count the character spacing on under the redacted line, so we can get a good estimate of how many characters that doctor's name fits in. We can really narrow these lists down by saying, oh well, this has got to be a doctor who we can narrow down the search terms on this database and basically go through a list of all the names, and then we can file a FOIA for each one and try to see if we can't get more information redacted from these CIA documents. Because once you get that doctor's name, it's like it's all unraveled. The names are super important in bibliographies and the literatures, and that sort of the work that I do in the scientific realm of tracing down who worked on what, and what scientists is this scientist citing in their bibliographies, because that connects the literature and the progress of the work through a chain of custody, or just a chain of information. So those names are super important. I did notice that it looks like John Wheeler might fit. If I were gonna say a person who was in charge of UFO materials or metals, metallurgy and scientific stuff like that, of the nature of that at the time, this story sounds similar to a story I heard about John Wheeler too, that the materials were hand delivered to his office and stuff, in part because John Wheeler never left Princeton University, but he refused to travel. He didn't like leaving. He didn't like leaving Princeton. He just liked to stay at home and go to work, and that's it. But anyways, Wheeler looks like would fit in this, because this says Dr. Blank and WHEELER. It's just the same. It fits. So I'm curious to know if Dr. Wheeler was indeed the scientist referenced on this 1976 document, which talks about the director of the science program. Because according to my research, I would bet almost certainly it's Wheeler at this time period. So I just wanted to offer that for some insights into this, and that we are working on a database to help out this process, because some information, good information, does come from FOIA, and we get some interesting leads from stuff, and certainly John Greenwald has shared some stuff from the Black Vault in the past, which has been useful. I cited this in my report last night, which the 1940s CIC document on this metal, UFO metals that were recovered from a UFO in Denmark. And so I linked to that in the description so people can check that out. Yes, I'm the human scientist. My name is Jeremy Riss, and I have a bachelor's degree in physics, and I've been researching a lot of this crazy world of UFOs and stuff for the past, 15, 20 years. And I'm just trying to get to the bottom of all this. Lots of stuff was mentioned, and people find my report. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Boom. Yeah, this is my presentation from last night. I just want to summarize it real quick because it was an hour and a half long, so a lot of people didn't get to see everything. But we were trying to think of anything we didn't cover, anything that I might have missed in terms of. But we covered every single technology that's ever come up in the UFO literature, I believe, in pretty sick detail. I went deep on a lot of stuff. So people want to check that out, they can go to my presentation from last night. I'm going to be working on that, maybe adapting a couple things, changing a couple slides. Some of the orders of a couple slides were off, or just there were others left in out of place that I'd because I've been butchering this and refitting it together for quite a while now, and there's a lot of science involved that's just not taught in high school, that I put in just to include, that's not necessarily UFO or UFO related. But I talk about the applications of these technologies, where they appear in the official. A lot of the stuff's in the ATIP and OSAP official documents and the DIRD documents on this stuff, and I go deep on the deep history of this and the scientists who worked on it, going back to the 40s and 50s and 60s. So these databases that I want to put together of all the scientists and stuff too, it will go super deep and be super useful in decoding these old FOIAs and figuring out which scientists were in charge of the programs, and because that's going to help tremendously with getting access to the information. Some of it goes back to World War II and the Nazis. The fact that our entire space program, NASA, was started by Nazis and was built by the Nazis, and that we brought over to the Redstone Arsenal and Operation Paperclip. So there's also a lot of conspiracy theories about how these Nazis were saved after the war, brought in and actually helped to redesign a lot of our infrastructure, and are just and just receded into the woodwork of modern society, that we've never sort of really outed these evil forces and whatnot. Lots of physics that we discussed last night, and when it went deep on them, but like in reality, a lot of it goes deeper if you go watch these lectures in the sources and stuff. I have lots of. Oh, I should put his CV in the source for that as well. That's a wealth of knowledge right there. Yeah, this is good. This publications. I'm gonna stick that. I gotta go fill out this a little more because the sources are important. People want to look up more information on this stuff. This is it. Yeah. Post all this so people can go check these notes out, because some people were saying that there's not all my sources are complete. So I want to add those in so people can go check that out. I'm going to post the Sal Pays interview too with Kurt Jamungle. That was key. But yeah, this is a lot of information that's out there, and sorry for getting distracted. It's just my work is never ever done. But I just want to point out that this is like 20 minutes of just him hitting a black wall with these FOIA requests and these documents and stuff. And I just want to point out how much further, if anyone who watched the presentation from last night and saw what we did with the technologies of just going through the science, is pretty nuts. Yeah, dude, jump on, please. By all means, let's jump on and have a talk. Yeah, Dr. Hongo, thank you. Eric, the New World Order of Physics. I met Eric out in California last weekend at the conference for the Silicon Valley Secret Space Conference. Thank you, Ryan. Are you related to Leonard Skinner at all? No, not the weed scientist. That's your job, buddy. Damn. Geza. All right, yeah, join up. Here's the StreamYard link. Whoops. Why did I post that? Again, I posted the wrong link. Here you go, guys. That's the Earth Tech link. This is the StreamYard link. Boom. That's the link to join and come talk about nonlinear optics and high energy gamma ray physics, where you can polarize the vacuum and produce antimatter. Pull antimatter right out of the vacuum. This Casimir force, you could possibly, tap into some 0-point energy and extract it from the vacuum. If you could get all the physics right. Interesting research being done into this. I should post a picture of Mike in there. I still and then, dude, I missed Mike McCulloch's lecture from the conference last weekend. He presented at the conference last weekend, and I missed his presentation because I was waiting for Mark. Mark said, "Oh, I'll be right back down." And then the next thing I know, an hour later, he's like, "Oh, I'm doing an interview." Oh. Meanwhile, I missed Mike's lecture, so I got to get a copy of that because I want to go back and watch that now. QuantizedInertia.com. Yeah, he's got some interesting papers. Got some interesting DARPA contracts, research going on right now, too. That quantum kickboard, illuminating some trade secrets about that and how to produce them. There's some hints here. You know what this is? Anybody know what that is? Yep, together we're building it. Yeah, definitely. I don't know. Antimatter is definitely key, and it's goes back to the 1950s, dude. We found that 59, that document at Alzafon. That was so interesting. I go find that now. I have a slide on it, but I have the actual document we could probably bring up. Man, these deep dives we're doing. Oh, this is what I wanted to bring up. Another thing I wanted to go into that I didn't really get into last night was this. Oh yeah. Now, where's the zoom? There it is. So here we have our sandwich. Metal for the buns and our dielectric meat filling. And that dielectric in the middle could be a left-handed metamaterial. And as I mentioned before, the phase velocity can be faster than the speed of light, although the group velocity has to still be within the speed of light. So what that means is that it could travel faster than the speed of light, but overall the group velocity of it traveling through the craft, through the object, has to maintain the speed of light. It has to still be the speed of light. So say that this is our craft and the light comes in, gets bent around, and then comes out the other side. So the phase velocity is faster than the speed of light because it actually takes this arced path and then comes out the other side, but it goes, the overall group velocity from this point to this point was still the speed of light. And that's super important because you're not breaking any laws of physics in doing this. Now, the idea is that if you built a metamaterial with small enough wavelengths, so the smaller that you build your grid pattern, it's like the sampling rate in the Nyquist theorem, whereby as long as your size is your wavelength or your length of your grid in your metamaterial is as long as that grid is half the wavelength of the frequency you're trying to interact with or smaller, then it will work. So the smaller that you can build your metamaterial, theoretically, you could build, if you built this grid of perfect C-ring resonators that were the smallest atomic size possible, you could build something that would be invisible to all frequency spectrums of light. Theoretically, I mean, it would maybe there'd be some interactions on the lower frequencies, but all the higher frequencies above the terahertz gap that would be invisible to, if you could build this thing so it was invisible to terahertz, then it would be invisible to all those other frequencies as well, which would be super interesting for the idea of gravity might be operating on all those electromagnetic frequencies. So if you could be invisible to all those things, then you could possibly be invisible to gravity, and that the gravity waves would go through this material much the same way that the light waves would just warp around it, so that you'd be essentially just floating in your reference frame, whatever reference frame that you wanted to be in, providing you just change some parameters of the space-time around the craft with these wave vibrations, and you could move yourself around from place to place. And that might be how UFOs fly. So it's worth looking into, I think. I think that the government spent a ton of money looking into this already, and I think that they've gotten almost nowhere. Although I don't know, I think that they must have gotten further than this, because if I can get this far on zero budget and just doing this in my spare time as a, not even a PhD or the resources of the government, then they gotta be more advanced than this. That or they're all freaking idiots. Come on now, and they're not stupid. There's some real smart people working for them out there. But then again, there's also some real stupid people. You get like Linus Pauling, who said that quasi crystals weren't, a thing. There was only quasi scientists who believed in, such things. Hey, Best Buy, thank you. You got great electronics. Thank you for the $5. Buy me a phone charger. Thank you for my hat. Do you like my hat? I should give you one. It probably cost me $5 for this hat. I don't think it was. Maybe like $10 out in New Mexico. And they almost got crushed in the suitcase on the way back. But they made it. Just barely. Thank you for that. I appreciate every little bit helps, man. It's not my day job, but again, if I could do all this in my spare time, man, imagine what the government can do and is doing and has done beyond anything you see, what you're seeing right now. And I talk about this, like there are certain key words that you'll find in the literature of what you have to look up and stuff in here. Oh, I know what, I forgot that. There's a couple things now that I remember that I'm forgetting from this presentation that I could include. But yeah, keywords like this, they're banned from the literature, man. It's just like in Manhattan Project days where they banned words like fission or atomic or nuclear or uranium, refinement, enrichment. All these words were keywords that they banned from the literature just as part of the secrecy, just to make sure nothing could leak out about the project and the Manhattan Project and what they were doing and what was going on. So I think that there's a similar project going on with the UFO technology, because you notice they're piping UFOs up. They're trying to get the public ready for something. There's something behind this, more with Congress getting interested in all this. But the key information again is missing, and I think there's a reason for that. I think it's something we should all be wary of, because this stuff's coming out, and it's great that we're getting further with our ufology hit a stone wall with a lot of these names. I mentioned the scientists, and the scientists are important, and the scientists who are working on these technologies are the ones we need to start talking to get the right intel. Because, man, asking the CIA for anything seems to be a painful, like, process of smashing your head against the wall. And it's like, all right, all the valuable points of information and contacts are missing, or retracted or redacted from these documents. So it's like you're not really getting anywhere, and that's a sad thing. But again, I've got the science end of this covered, so I'm trying to help out with the database that would at least help in figuring out some ways around this FOIA process. Because if you were to be like, oh, well, so send one in for Dr. Wheeler, and then in conjunction with this reference for this document, then you can get that name redacted if that's the name that's under there. And because once you know the information that's in the document, they have to kind of give it to you. So if we could narrow it down to like 5 or 6 names, and then just file 5 or 6 FOIAs, one for each one of those names, then you're going to get it. You're eventually going to hit a bullseye. And we got Bernard in the house. Bernard, I was just wanting to do a really short stream anyways. I was just about to jump off, but let's get the after party going.
Okay, do you mind if I just go over a couple quick things from the last couple of streams in APEC before you end the live?
Yeah, that's fine. We'll do some current events, because there's more going on than just John Greenwald.
Well, like there's been some silent censorship happening of really good researchers like Jason Verbelli. Both of his channels were taken down recently, as well as I did the Year of the Coil last night update with Jeremiah, Mike from Faraday, Mike from Space, as well as Gerald and a couple other coil guys, including Frankie. But point being, I had the Daniel Nunes coil videos posted in my video descriptions, and the link had been up for about a week. And then when I went to play them last night, they had taken down the Daniel Nunes YouTube channel too, with their PoE coil and all of their work at one.
This is a difficult issue, man, because what you get into is like Jason Verbelli's case, for example, right? So on the side of YouTube or whoever, right? They're claiming that Jason is falsifying data and results, and promoting false information. He
said that it was due to health claims of like making the magnetic water or whatever. So also on that regard, don't ever, and I already say this, but don't ever make your own like monoatomic stuff and give yourself heavy metal poisoning. You will kill yourself instantly. What I'm doing is strictly experimental stuff like in a lab, and yeah, do not consume it. You will die. But yeah, putting magnets, like they're not even, he wasn't even exposing the water to the magnets themselves, just the magnetic fields. And I guess they took him down for health claims on that. And then,
Okay, so he made a health claim, but the issue is that you can't make claims that aren't true or backed up and stuff. And so I guess there's two sides to this story. There's one that's saying, well, but then there's also the idea that if we had legitimate information, then they could use these rules to censor us. So being pro censorship is not a good idea. It's like, even though I disagree with what Jason did and maybe some of the things he advocated and what he was doing and some of that research, I have to fight for his right to do that. And people like that, even though I disagree with some of their research and some of their findings, I have to fight for their ability to do that, because they could use that same tools to censor us, and they will once they can get away with it.
But and then what about the Daniel Nunes channel? Why did we lose that? He came on your stream one time, one of the first times I came on there, and they do the PoE coils. And the only thing that I can think of is that they were testing growing food and vegetables next to these resonance coils. And they did scientific experiments showing that you can grow these vegetables in dark next to these coils. And then it had to do with this food thing. And I bring that up because last night in the Year of the Coil stream that you came in on for a little bit, when Jeremiah and Gerald started talking about Gerald's experiments with coils and food, they also seemed to like lose service and stuff. It was really, really weird. But that's all I will mention of that, because it seems to be such a controversial topic. I just wanted to get it out there, and that we all agree that people, there has to be proper like discernment, as well as like advisories for people doing these experiments and putting the information out there. But everybody has the right to be doing it, and nobody's work should be taken down because of it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, well, you kind of have to allow that. And even if the channels get like massively popular selling crap, it's kind of like you could slap an advisory label on it. But I mean, how much power do we let YouTube?
And hey, that's another thing. You, myself, Jeremiah, APEC, we're not selling anything. Like everything we do, it's like
that's a different. I was noticing that because, like,
absolutely, it's really about giving it away. And I guess I will mention, since you bring up the coils and growth increase rate for plants and vegetation, Gerald did an interesting experiment where he simply pre-treated the seeds, moistened the seeds, pre-treated them in the coil, and then planted them along with untreated seeds in the same room right next to him, and he got a 30% increase in the growth rate from just treating the seeds. And I think it was like maybe a 10-minute process that he put him through, something incredibly short with virtually zero energy cost in terms of what it can give you. And if that can do it, if just treating seeds can cause an increase in growth, and once you've already got seeds sprouted, putting a coil next to them can increase in growth, and if pouring that crap on your garden can increase in growth, which we all see.
Yeah,
it was a big difference. Those two side by side.
In really quickly with my cell phone and show like that my garden, it's about to freeze here in Canada. There's been a couple close frosts recently, so I'll take
probably
my
the last
camera
chance to get to show
it. Had the water on the garden all year, and you'll literally see both the kale, the Swiss chard, and if my dad hasn't chopped down the one lettuce that was in that section, are 3 times the size of everything else in the garden. And
now just imagine you combine all of them. You pre-treat your seeds, you treat your vegetation as it's growing, and you pour that on it. I mean, now you're talking, 4 times faster plant growth, 5 times faster. Who the hell knows where you can realistically stop that limit? But we won't be going hungry if we do this. That's for sure.
Dude, my hat has made over $10 tonight.
I guess I'm going to have to wear a cowboy hat on here with you next time, too.
Howdy.
I'm from Calgary, Alberta, y'all. Y'all.
Long way from Texas. Brother. You got to get an Eskimo hat. Wear that. Eh?
Oh, yeah. Don't you worry, eh? It's going to be -30 soon, and I'm going to be all bundled up, eh?
Oh, man, that was awesome.
Are you gonna be in your Canadian tuxedo?
I tell you, it gets really cold in Canada.
Too cold
Yeah.
for me.
So right below that's a comment from Ghost Rider about the negative mass experiment from the University of Rochester. Yeah, that's another interesting one because this is it right here.
Awesome. I haven't heard about this yet, so enlighten me.
All right, so this was from January 2018. And I remember when it came out, I posted it like every month for like the entire year, just being like, you guys like gotta be paying attention to this. In case you don't know, Rochester has been like a hub for optics research for decades. And that's where the first squeezed light was produced in 1985. If you look up that 30-year history of squeezed light document, I always reference a lot. But this is super interesting because it talks about the materials that I became interested in 2018 and started, talking about nonstop, and to the point where I drove Mark insane about my polaritons. Because this is this substrate. These are polariton lasers, the different way of producing lasers. And then this, the polariton physics is what I deem is super important because this is where you create this negative mass. And when I looked at polaritons on Wikipedia, I was just like blown away because right in the references in the bibliography, I found a paper on room temperature superconductors produced in, if you look up room temperature superconductor, polariton room temperature superconductor, or the superfluids and superconductors that have been created using this liquid light stuff, or polariton condensate.
Yeah, you get this, and you're going to
I
get the
swear
Paya's
the
patents.
monoatomic plasma stuff that you're looking at right here, made out of melted metals through electrolysis, is very, very similar properties of this cold fusion technology, metamaterial stuff.
Also got to notice this, right? Not to cut you off, but
Sorry.
the research that was done at University of Rochester, right here on urochester.edu's website, says it was funded by the Air Force Research Laboratory. Okay. So why is the Air Force interested in this? Huh?
Oh, yeah.
Anyone answer me that?
I don't know. Why was Paya's interested in it?
How long ago is it from? And like, you combine it with.
2018.
Oh,
what
wow,
does the
so
Air
more
Force do
recent.
again?
What does the Air Force do again?
Yeah, I don't know, right? Could be anything.
I'm just going to interject here for a quick second. I ran a group of very high-profile franchise dealerships right next to Wright Pat Air Force Base. And there's a colonel there. Actually, he's an ex-colonel now, named Robert E. Scott. Okay. Bob Scott, very common name. And he would only deal with me when it came to his finances and buying a car. And at one point, he actually sent a car back because it smelled bad that I ordered for him. And I can just tell you this, when it comes to the Air Force and the amount of people that I've encountered over the years, there is nothing that passes through without being recognized by someone in the Air Force, in my opinion. So I'll just leave it at that, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, they got smart people, and I want to talk about some of them and some of the things I learned. One of the guys who's in this presentation is our friend Isaac Kemp. And his
we sold Isaac Kemp a Honda CRZ when they came out in 2013. He actually left a Google review on our website. That dude is so cool. He lives in Fairborn, Ohio, or at least he did. I don't know if he still does. He may have fled. That dude is so cool, and he did not deserve any of the BS he got.
No, it's
None of it.
crazy, man. I want to interview him. If you could, that's been,
I had his old contact information. Unfortunately, I
I
can't
don't
really
think they would
disclose it.
let
But
him.
if
I
I
don't
can't
think
get a
they'd
hold
let
of him,
him.
I will.
I don't think they'd let him. I think what he would I'd have to do is I have to go out to, meet with him in secret when I'm out in my next trip next year or whatever, when I go
Yeah.
to Ohio, and I meet with him and like have him give me a recorded interview so it's like I have it, and I'll promise not to release it until he's dead or 10 years from
Right.
now or whatever.
Jeremy. I'll just dispute I'll state my age. I'm 37, but he is roughly within 5 years of our age, and so he's kind of our generation. But I bet he'd be open to it, just knowing him. But anyway, I'll mute my mic now.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what I know he can't talk about certain things, and there's certain things he can or can't talk about. So maybe I'll have like a little off the record, chat with him just about some stuff. But it's not anything that I don't already know or can't already see through the bullshit on a lot of this stuff. But I just his research seemed to be based around these, optics for seeing beneath layers of things, so like the scanners, which the scanner technology, it makes sense that the Air Force would be interested in new high-tech scanners. So I mean that's not outside the ordinary, but this negative mass stuff and the laser stuff is certainly alarming, something to take interest of. Room temperature superconductors. I mean, this is what Michio Kaku talked about 20 years ago when he did the Discovery Channel thing on UFOs and how they might fly, and talked about the future. And he's like, well, once we figure out room temperature superconductivity, they'll be able to have all this stuff. Well, liquid light, buddy. Polariton condensate. But anyways.
So, do you mind if I just go back to normal view for a sec?
Yeah.
Layouts. There we go. Oh, I guess I'll put the guard.
What's what? Those
So
are really good.
Oh,
here, let me show that giant thing in the middle. That giant green thing. That's the one lettuce that got the monoatomic. That's like constantly been like taking leaves off for
Get
the
outta
salad
here.
all summer.
Really,
And,
that
like,
one that's really tall is
yeah.
what you've been
Oh
feeding?
yeah. Okay, so this is.
Can you let us know what it does to weed?
The normal romaine lettuce and the normal
Same thing.
kale size, and then like the normal stuff. And then as we get to the monoatomic, sorry, my neighbor is mowing their lawn. You get to this lettuce that like we've literally had 8 salads from, and it just keeps growing.
are the rabbits growing to abnormal size?
Of the kale. I'll mute myself out, but
Right.
The rabbits have been growing to abnormal size. Their teeth are getting larger.
Hey, as long as the garden outgrows the rabbits, then we're still good.
Well, we got to
Good point,
check his
Jeremiah.
nutritional content, though.
so I'm also going to quickly show this little saltwater battery thing that I've created that's been running for 5 days now, producing hydrogen, and it's not connected to a single power source. Just a couple of jars connected to each other. And then the cathode side, I don't know if you'll be able to actually see it bubbling, but with a good camera, it's actually bubbling consistently nonstop outside in cooler weather with no power source at all connected to it. So
Did you hook up the multimeter yet to that thing and find out what's going on?
no, I'm still about to do that. I have been
before
busy.
it stops bubbling, you got to check it while it's still going.
Oh yeah. But like it's bubbling even more now than it was when I originally started the reaction.
Yeah, really.
So, and then here's a second one as well, bubbling on this one. It's these 3 hooked up, and it's been for 5 days now, and it keeps going. So tomorrow, I'm going to make sure that I do a stream where I actually hook them up to the multimeters and do the test, seeing the voltages that are coming out of it, and that
even if it's a half amp, it could easily be produced down into 12 or 24 little cups with the same little anode cathode creation into them, and then you're going to have a 12-volt water battery out of very simple things that runs for a very long time.
I wanted to ask you this the other day too. You have salt water in there, obviously, and then you have these other various elements. But what is your anode and cathode made of?
So we got just triple copper on this side. We've got iron, aluminum on this side, aluminum, tungsten, copper on the active cathodes, aluminum, tungsten, tungsten, copper on both of the cathodes that are being reactive.
Yeah, before replicating Mike's power cells, I would have kind of ignored the idea of salt water or just plain water as an electrolyte. But if you have the right catalyst materials, the right catalyst metals, you will get a breakdown and oxidization reaction, which can generate power, something that I didn't know.
Right, and it's also going to be measuring how long the aluminum reaction goes on for and is producing the hydrogen, and then how long we can get the effective charge out of it, and the cost ratio of switching the aluminum part within the reactor batteries. But this camera is going to die, so I will go back to the computer and let you take your show back. Good, Jeremy, sir.
It's cool to see the garden, man. Thanks for showing that. I was impressed with the results the first time, and it looks like it really took off now. So nice job with that. It's a good experiment, and I would love, before the garden dies, for you to actually do a full video on your channel and talk about exactly which ones you added the monoatomics to and which ones you didn't, and just show the side-by-side comparison when you still can.
100% will be doing that when I also do the voltage tests on these batteries in the next day. See you guys in time.
Yes, and then also have like the cage of the rabbits, and you feed one lettuce to the one rabbit and the other lettuce to the other rabbit to see, if there's any difference in the nutritional value, or if you create mutant rabbits. But anyways, yeah, that was pretty cool. Those other experiments are pretty neat. We got to get some more. We got to get some more cold fusion stuff on and dive deep into that, because I got some good contacts in that field. Although I don't know, I feel like the alien scientist thing's holding me back, man, because it's like, dude, you just do classified research, and it's like, and people see the alien scientist, and I'm like, when every time I've like seen my stuff covered on a popular site, all the comments are just like, oh, his name's
Well,
Alien
as the
Scientist.
concept of
Well,
UAP
you've been
and just
around-
alien get more mainstream, right? You're just going to get more and more views from having that channel name. It might have been a bad thing 10 years ago, but not now. Now it's actually going to benefit you.
You're so established as well, and now it's also trending. And then there's also APEC, and that Tim has now given me an hour LENR cold fusion segment each time. And well, you know a lot more of the details than I do, so you are the perfect co-host to do that segment with me. So
yeah, man, I'm gonna be honest, Jeremy. I like your channel name. I think it's a great channel name. It's memorable. It's easy to find. It's one of the few channels that I actually can find on a YouTube search. So I wouldn't screw with
and
that.
it's the fact that most of the time you're like, it's not aliens.
Exactly.
And despite like those people who like, I think it's like people that don't read the books, they just judge it by their cover. Because I do get like people that dive into this stuff, and I do get like, I get students, sometimes I've even gotten a few professors that have reached out and say, hey, I like what you're doing, or look into this, or look into that, or here's a correction on this, or and that's appreciative.
It's a community that is now coming together and starting to work together a lot more, and that just wants to advance humanity past this retarded, self-destructive state that we seem to keep cycling back towards in the inefficient, oil is everything and all we can ever amount to retarded mindset.
Yeah, you can't use the words cold fusion anymore. It's you got to use LENR, lattice assisted nuclear reaction. That's like the proper term for it. And I even got interest of people in, this guy he wants to translate all this stuff, my entire thing from last night into Hebrew, and spread it to, students and in Hebrew speak.
That's
Like
amazing.
if that would be awesome. The more people that we can get on board with this technology's disclosure and the fact, yeah, I talk about these as UFO materials because they were in official documents from a UFO program from the Pentagon. So I don't know. I try to go through that stuff and focus on the science that's in there and keep it on the, you know, you gotta get new kids aren't going to get interested in science if it's just the same old crap. It's like you got to show them that there's new stuff, lots of new stuff. There's areas of research that are just exploding with new insights and new applications, new technologies. There's more opportunities now than ever before in history. Like the people talk about, you know, oh, I wish I could go back to 93 and invest in Apple. Like, bro, there's shit going on right now that you could be investing in that's worth way more than Apple and all these companies combined. Like
Dude, hands down, man, this technology is going to be such a major disruption to everything that we've already become familiar with. It's going to revolutionize so many things and change the entire world.
yeah, people have no
This
idea.
is
And
the
they're
place
laughing
to
like,
be.
oh, alien scientists. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just you wait, buddy.
We're working on building hoverboards, all right?
There are people who poo-pooed the internet, so like let them
Yeah.
be wrong.
Yeah, that's
Hopefully,
right. There are.
Yes. The leader of IBM said there's only a market for 5 computers in the world, in the whole world. 1943. It's like we have all these famous quotes of people that just got it wrong. The head of the patent office wanted to close it in 1913 because there's nothing, everything's already been invented.
Yeah, of course it is. That's right. Well, you know, kind of it was, right? In the 50s, everything kind of was invented. I guess you had to wait till like the 1963, 1964 to really have that list. But otherwise, we really backpedaled for about 50 years and then finally started to do some real work again.
well, what's this about NASA losing the technology to go to the moon quote thing? Like, what the heck?
Yeah,
is
no kidding.
Okay, well, there's knowledge for like how equipment works and how it's made and assembled and stuff that it's not written down anywhere. And if the person retires or dies, then you lose it. That's the thing in all industries, and you should really fear that in basically every industry right now. Just heads up.
I ain't worried. I ain't worried at all because we're going to give it away. So
Still, you'd think our engineering's better.
can't patent it. Domain.
Oh, man. Excuse me.
Figure it out.
Yeah, so white papers reveal more than any FOIA request. Yes, academia is catching up. Like this is I the point of this video, and really bringing it home to that point is a good point to end on, because these white papers and that literature, that's the real deep dive where we go on that and we go through like the physics papers and go one to the other and to the other. And then you're looking at, oh, well, who funded this research? Oh my God, it was the US Air Force. And, you know, that's where you find this stuff. Like, where will you go through the Air Force? You're going to go through official channels and FOIA the Air Force all day to find out like all the scientific studies that they funded? You're never going to find it that way. It's a backwards channel approach, and we're kicking their ass, dude. Look at John Greenwald. 20 minutes. We're 20 minutes of my video, and we like, I mean, we've got so much further and so much deeper than he's gotten with those FOIA requests, and he's just talking about the best of the best that he's got on UFO materials, and it don't touch what we got on UFO materials, not by a long shot, bro. Like, we got the science, we got the white papers, and we got the like all the, you know, all the literature. It's all there in the Defense Intelligence reference documents, and then you go from the bibliographies and that, and you branch into all the other stuff that we've covered. There's thousands and thousands of papers, and it's all out there in the scientific literature. That's not being censored. It's not being redacted. None of, there's no black lines in any of those documents. It's all there. You know what I mean? So it's boring as hell. Yeah, for people that aren't into it, you know, and it's way over most people's heads. So that's why they don't need to redact it, you know? No,
I've got to be honest, in the 15 or 17 years, somewhere in there, time that I've been following this channel, the amount of progress that has been made just by your efforts alone, not to mention, the help of some others, obviously Ed and, some other people, but it's incredible in comparison to what you just said, the FOIA requests. I mean, you can't even hold a pencil to it.
I'll second that, man. I mean, think about it. APEC wouldn't exist if Jeremy's channel didn't bring us all together in the first place. That's just a fact.
I totally agree there. Totally agree.
There's so many people that have linked through this specific channel, which is one of the other reasons why I don't think you should ever change the name, because so many people have come together in this massive community. Because one, Jeremy, you focus on actually promoting people to get together in this community, which is like one of your big original missions. Yeah. And secondly, you supported it with your own research, data, and plenty of streams to get our minds thinking about this stuff. So incredible work has been done by a very small number of people, and it's made major ripples through the community at large.
Yeah, I think we're broadcasting on the right frequency. We got some key things figured out in this mix. That it's forced technology, forced disclosure through technology, and there's a reason why. We were talking about all this stuff before ATIP and before OSAP existed. If you look at this, like I was going back, like talking. I had videos about metamaterials and quasicrystals and photonic circuits and all this kind of stuff, because that's what I found when I started researching it back when I heard about it in 2002. And I was like, holy crap, this is like, people have no idea this is what the future is going to be like. And I've just watched it all come out over the last 10, 15 years. All these predictions that I made are coming true. And it's like, all right, it was all based on this insight that I had into UFO technology that I got, from a glimpse at it. And I'm just trying to share that whole idea that, hey, we can't just throw this baby out with the bathwater because and be like the poo-hoo skeptics saying, oh, where's the evidence? I just want the evidence. And everyone's full of shit and people are full of crap. No, we have to take the science that we have and use our imaginations. And then also the declassification of all this, that this stuff was buried for years, and now it's been talked about. I almost think that this was. I wonder about what all this was happening with Bigelow, and I think that they did this on purpose because they commissioned these studies, they got this information out, and because they knew it led deeper down these rabbit holes into these things. The science is the key, and that's what's in the Defense Intelligence reference documents. But I wonder if they would have even looked into that stuff. They must have known about it. They had to have known about it. But the fact is, we got tipped off about that stuff, and we were making it public before then. So
they probably did, and I think that's why they hire people like Jeremy Corbell or put him on the payroll to just confuse the subject, or Bob Lazar, and it's a complete distraction to the facts of what is already being discovered by the group of people who really want to pursue what this technology really can bring to the table.
Exactly. And I think the number one thing you can say about all these play actors is they have lots of information, but not a bit of it is actionable. And that's the problem with it.
Right, like especially like the Bob Lazar, like, oh, you're gonna have to build a particle accelerator in your backyard to make a freaking hydrogen car, man. You're gonna need this element 116, this unobtainium, to be able to do anti-gravity, man. Or like now the Jeremy Corbell of like, oh, now it's Skinwalker Ranch mixed in with it all, man. Like, no, anybody can actually figure this out, and when they do, it happens to martyrs like Stanley Myers and probably so many more that we haven't even heard about, but it's all coming out and we're doing it together now.
Yeah, water is an interesting medium that they use water a lot for these technologies, because water has what's called, I don't know, it has essentially memory, but it has imprintation. You can imprint things on water very easily. It's so there's ways to line up the molecules, and of course water contains a small percentage of deuterium and even tritium by volume. So you could take seawater and filter out the deuterium and heavy water, and that's in fact what's done a lot of times to manufacture or concentrate heavy water.
In terms of the water and the exclusion zone, it's probably one of the most phenomenal properties of water recently discovered in the last 2 decades or so. And what it's allowed us to do is now figure out we can filter salt water, filter contaminants out of water just by having a certain type of surface immersed in that water, because if we add light to the water, it'll automatically self-structure itself into
the charge the charge part. And that easy water, when it gets into that easy water form, it's turning the water itself into a super battery where the outside is completely negatived and everything on the inside or in those layers are positive with little circuits that it creates for itself in between. And that's your superconductive cold state battery, basically.
Well, it is a different state at least, but the exclusion zone is really fascinating because if you think about it, you already have dihydrogen monoxide, or H2O, water molecules floating around in your normal water. And we normally just think of them as being randomly oriented and moving all over the place due to Brownian motion. But in the exclusion zone, they line themselves up. And the funny thing is, they don't gain or lose any electrons in this process. So it's almost as if the outer valence band electrons gain just a little bit of energy, not enough to actually jump a band gap, but enough to orient themselves where it does appear to be able to absorb photonic energy. And as to why this allows water to generate an extra structure that it normally wouldn't have, and then give us a very different set of properties that otherwise normally wouldn't have, this is some pretty fascinating stuff.
And it's going to be mixing that with the supercavitation aspect of water, and then that will be the technological breakthrough right there.
So what about my new insights? The audience, if you don't mind.
I had this slide and I had some new insights that recently I kind of had a stroke of genius, because remember hearing about the White Sands, New Mexico labs that had been brought some of this Roswell memory foil right after Roswell, that this Navy captain had brought some of this memory foil down there, and they had actually done an SEM imaging on it and found it to be like a woven mesh fabric of this metal wire. Of basically, I think it was nitinol wire, because they were looking into the material science and they had all this stuff on nitinol afterward. And there's been so much that we found on nitinol that makes me believe that this could have been, this was probably what it was woven of or made of. What do you guys think about the nitinol being used as the cathode material in these cold fusion experiments, and the use of such a fabric of woven nitinol wire for filtering out massive amounts of deuterium very quickly from seawater?
100%.
This is like a cold fusion or LENR factory times 1,000. This is I think where we need to be in terms of the engineering to actually get usable energy from cold fusion.
You're bang on. You are bang on with what you have just said there. That is the key of making it all, like that the cathodes no longer break down, that it's able to store the deuterium and then get that waveform of energy reaction into it.
Because you get that site explosion and the breakdown where these active sites occur, where the energy occurs, and then transferring that energy among the lattice and then repairing those sites. Nitinol would be perfect for that because it's shape retention.
Well, and then it would take what it wants from the seawater, and that's, I think, why you have USOs and UFOs in conjunction.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes what it wants from the water and then moves on.
Yeah, using nanoscale surface interactions with different metals seems to be a real promising avenue in order to extract basically all that you want from your water with the only power being provided from a pump. And if you just use the natural flow or tides, you don't even need the pump technically. So these materials will passively separate out the parts that you want, which is pretty freaking fantastic because we can leave them sit there and collect and have to do nothing except come and
absolutely. Get you know what? It's crazy because Mitchell Schwartz did the calculations, and he said that within a cup of regular seawater is enough energy through fusion to power New York City for an entire year. So if we could find a way to do this, it would turn our oceans into bottomless fuel tanks that make our oil reserves look pitiful in comparison. So yes, the technology is the path to get there. It will come, I believe. It may have already come and been blocked by certain these information patent secrecy acts and other such infrastructure that seems to be in place to for no other reason to enslave and control humanity by a greedy power elite that
exactly. And passive systems effectively equal freedom if we can find ways to easily implement them. In the same way that passive water filters equal freedom for many people living way, way far away from civilized society in the plains of Africa. A lot of these little tribal communities just had no water, and a couple of filters come along, and bam, all of a sudden they're totally revolutionizing their little culture. So it's pretty fantastic. And these passive systems are gonna totally change the future if we can optimize them.
Yeah, I mean, look at how long we've spent on hot fusion and these confinement systems, and they've gotten results. I mean, this is SPAWAR's own data from the U.S. Navy. NASA's recently confirmed it. These are the scientists that showed up for the colloquium in 2014. There's a massive community support for this technology and the fact that it is real, and there's a revolution happening in a lot of this stuff. So thank you all for watching and being part of this. We're going to go to private session now and join the StreamYard link. I'm going to repost it right now.
I'll mention one last thing, just in answer to His Highness asked a question about grav mats. So in terms of gravity mats, yeah, I built one of those. Actually, I built many, many different iterations of gravity mats. And most of them I designed with a very tight pinch field. But for example, I have a small handheld unit that the physical mat itself is only about 1/64 inch thick, and it can lift up a piece of 1/8 inch thick glass the same size as the mat. So they definitely work, and it's just a matter of how far apart you have your electric and your magnetic field vectors crossing each other so that you can generate that attractive force universally on all materials. All right, folks, thank you so much. This was a good one. And hey, G, I'll be sending you can just use that same link and hop on Zoom whenever you're ready. Thanks.
Or figure out StreamYard, Gerald. Come on, join in.